Of course, you're building up now in preparation for your weekend's return to league football. You will analyse everything. What did you finally make of it when you watched it second time around?
Not a good night, lots of poor decisions, particularly obviously from set plays. Look, in general play, we didn't produce anywhere near enough football. But sometimes in games of football, when you don't do that, you can still survive and still be competitive by making sure you do the basics. And a lot of the basics in football revolve around set plays in both boxes. And we didn't. So all 4 goals led from set plays, particularly the first 3, and obviously the last one we had our own set play at the other end of the pitch. And we got punished on all those occasions, and rightly so, because the scoreline was reflective of where we saw our performance. There's absolutely no hiding around it, and many of the players on the pitch would have been disappointed with what they produced, because obviously some of them wanted to show that they're ready to come into the team when players do come out of the team, and not many were able to obviously portray themselves in the best light on the night. So not good all round from all of us, really.
So going forward, how do you communicate that to your players? How do you sort of work it into them?
Well, like I said at the end of the interview the other night, it's not a disaster losing the game of football, but it becomes a problem if you don't learn from it and it's repeated. So as long as it's not repeated and everything that we get into them today in terms of the tactics around that game and the decisions that they made is taken on board, then there shouldn't be an issue in terms of moving forward. We know exactly where the problems lay, the players do, there's a recognition of that, and obviously the beauty of football is you have one game following the next. It's a treadmill of game after game after game, so you have opportunities to rectify things very soon after. So there's still plenty of positivity in the camp. We've had a great league start and we aim to continue that on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you know what you've done in your sort of assembling of the squad, because you talked to your players before you brought them here to make sure that they sort of fit the bill that you want, that they will react to sort of a poor night.
Yeah, absolutely. Footballers have to be mentally tough, and they have to have plenty of fortitude. And you have difficult circumstances around any game. It's the same with the staff. You've got to swiftly move on and ensure that it's not repeated. It's a tough old industry, and if you're not willing to take the knocks and the bad times, if you like, then there's no point in you being in it, because it's full of peaks and dips, and we've had a couple of really good peaks, and now we've suffered a dip, and hopefully we move on from that, as I say, and we really kick on moving into Saturday's game.
Yeah, before we just move into Salford and a little more in depth of what's going on, can we have an update on Charlie Colker and Dave Richards in terms of how they are, especially Charlie, who came off on Tuesday?
Yeah, that doesn't look a good one. We'll know the full extent next Monday. I think he's got to settle down a bit before Steve, the physio, can identify whether it's a lower grade injury or a perhaps a more severe injury. So we won't know more until Monday. But yeah, that doesn't look a great one, and we won't be seeing him for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Dave, far more positive. He's already back out on the grass. Can't obviously do anything in terms of anything that involves that hand yet. That's just got to settle down for another few days, and then hopefully he'll be available for selection. If not the Sutton game, then perhaps more realistically the game that follows, which I think is Northampton, isn't it, at home? So more positive on that front.
That brings me on to sort of a couple of club teams you mentioned there. Your next sort of 4 games that are coming up, do you think that's going to give you a good gauge to where you are and how you started the season when you look at it? Salford, Sutton, Northampton, Bradford?
Possibly. Everybody always says after 10 games it levels off. By the time those 4 games have been completed, with 6 games in, aren't we? So I think it's dangerous to predict exactly, if you're any club or any supporter, exactly what part of the table your team's going to lay. 46 games in after just 6. As I say, I'm more of the view that after 10 to 15 it starts to take shape, because you play nearly half of the teams, perhaps just a touch over half, 15 games in. So therefore you've got a greater knowledge of what's out there, who's going to be strong, who's going to be not so strong, and how many of those teams that are featuring at the top end of the table by that point you will have played. So I think you measure it after 10-15 games more than a 6 to 8 game span.
If you just look at in the last few years of football management in the lower leagues and even in the higher leagues, it's changed, I feel, where there always used to seem to be a group of managers who always seem to get jobs. Well, that's gone away now, and like yourself, and I'm going to come to the Salford manager, who I'm pretty sure you'll know quite well, Neil Wood, because he was the Manchester United under-23 academy manager. You were the Crow Alexandra under-23 manager. Great feeling that, and that's the way it's gone.
Yeah, it's good to see it evolving that way. I don't know him personally and not spoke to him on a one-to-one level ever really, but we were in the same age cohort, so we always came up against each other. We were both midfielders at the time, in academy football right the way through to when we were under 17 and under 19s it was back then. It's now obviously under 16 and under 18, at that top end of the academy spectrum. So I've always come across him as a younger player, certainly not in coaching circles. He's got a great reputation as Neil, and obviously they play a very unique brand of football there. Having had a good look at them over the last couple of days, very different to anything else we'll experience this year in terms of the way that they play. So it'll be a tough game, and yeah, going back to your original question, it does seem that younger coaches are getting the chance to manage more often now, which is it's good to see, because it bodes well for new ideas and obviously a new wave of how to manage young players now compared to obviously the more traditional ways.
You mentioned that that they play their own way. Has that been good for you, that you've been able to really dig deep and analyse of what you're going to come up against?
Yeah, as always, John Dillon moves on to the next level of opposition that we're playing immediately after we completed the previous game. So we always know well in advance, days in advance, exactly what's facing us. They've got a very fluid and flexible type of system whereby it changes depending on whether they're in or out of possession, which is very different to most teams in this league. So that's something we're going to get us head round over the next couple of days, so that the boys are prepared in terms of how it's going to look out of possession, to then give us that solid base and platform to then go on and win the game with the ball.
You appreciated the travelling fans who went to Grimsby in midweek. You'll obviously know that what happened in Rochdale, it was fantastic and a big number. I think that would be a similar thing that's going to be happening on Saturday. They play a massive part for you, don't they? And you want your team, you want them to show that they can bounce back. Yeah,
it was unbelievable, the fact that we took obviously those numbers to Grimsby on a Tuesday night in a cup game. And obviously that was one of the biggest disappointments for me at the end, that the fact that those fans weren't rewarded, not so much the result, but certainly the performance. They deserved the performance and didn't get one. The numbers that we're going to obviously travel with to Salford, probably going to exceed the Rochdale game, I would imagine. It's going to be a nice day as well, which we didn't get at Rochdale. So again, we're forever thankful to the support that we get. We travel in numbers, they're local as well, and it's good that the first two away games in the league have been local ones, because it allows us to build up that immediate rapport with the supporters, and obviously we'll be going all out to ensure that we win that game of football for them on Saturday afternoon.